Wellness industry is booming, so why does it seem like everyone's still chasing the next fix? Welcome back to Wellness Maintenance Required. I'm your host, Summer Sanders, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Integrative Wellness Consultant. And today I'm joined by Heidy Caminero, Wealth Embodiment Coach. And we're having a conversation that's been living rent-free in my mind lately. Between manifestation, mindset, nervous system regulation, and hypnosis, if you've spent more than 5 minutes on Instagram, you've probably been told you need all four. So how much is actually useful and how much is just social media noise? Today, we're unpacking some of the biggest trends in the wellness and personal growth industry, and maybe even calling out a few wellness buzzwords we're both ready to retire. So let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Hi, Summer. Thanks for having me. I'm Heidi, a wealth embodiment coach, and I work with female entrepreneurs or females in corporate who identify as being the first generation cycle breaker in their family, and I help them heal their relationship with money. So, mainly around overcoming upper limits with money. They've achieved and amassed a really big amount of success and wealth, usually being the first in their family to do so. But just because you've achieved a lot doesn't mean that you feel calm and relaxed and deserving of all of it. So I work with subconscious reprogramming to help the women feel worthy of actually having the money and the success that they've amassed over time.
Amazing. I love that. And I feel like, money mindset, that phrase has been just thrown around so much lately. So why do you think that phrase or that terminology has kind of exploded online as of recently?
Yeah, I think because it's intriguing. I think when you hear money mindset, everyone needs money, everyone works with money at any point in time in their life. It's something that's so integral to our living and our everyday life. So when you say something like money mindset, it perks your ears up and you become interested and you say, "Tell me more. What does that mean?" But I think what some people can get wrong around money mindset is potentially thinking that it's just think positive, positive affirmations, and it is a little piece of it, but it is much more deeply rooted. So when it comes to money mindset and seeing a lot of influencers on the internet talking about rituals or buy this program or buy this course, this is where I would encourage everyone to practice some discernment of exactly what is it that they're after. If money mindset is piquing their interest, what about it is piquing your interest? Is it that you're trying to make a quick buck really quick? Or is it that you're really trying to better your relationship with it? You're trying to feel worthy and deserving of having more because you have really big goals. So, really thinking about what is the ultimate outcome when you're diving into the whole money mindset space.
Yeah, I think that's really smart because there is just such a plethora of coaches out there of, different types of providers of all sorts, and recommendations even from people who don't technically work in the industry, but let's say they influence in the industry, right? And unfortunately, since a lot of these practices can be so simple in theory to apply, I feel like that's why people take it and really run with it. But the misconceptions that we see on our end is it takes a lot of effort and input from the client, and it's almost like therapy for yourself, you know? So it's not an easy process. There is effort, there is planning, there is work that goes in on your part. So it's, we'll get into more of the manifestation type of stuff later because I think manifestation is great, but also it's one of those things where people hear it and they think, well, if I just wish or if I just say specifically what I want, then it should appear like that. And that's not how it works. It's more so putting yourself in the right types of rooms and situations and the right type of temperament to attract certain things or even achieve certain things. So it's just very interesting, I suppose. And then talk to me a little bit about kind of what you see with clients in terms of are there a lot of differences between people coming in with scarcity versus abundance mentality? And how do you kind of work with them through that?
So, most of the women that I work with, they do have some type of scarcity pattern running through their life. One very simple one that you could probably assess in your life is when you go to the grocery store and you're comparing between two seemingly same products. They almost seem the same, but you're gravitating towards one in particular, but the deal breaker for you is that one is a dollar more than the other, rather than the item that you actually wanted is the one that was actually most interesting to you. So I see it still play out in my own life and even with my husband when we go grocery shopping. If the blueberries that week are a dollar or $2 more, he will say, "Nope, absolutely not." And that is a really small hint of a scarcity pattern running through when you're really like nickel and diming little pieces of your life in the everyday versus an abundance mindset would look at the same carton of blueberries and say, "Oh, this week they're $2 more. That's fine. I really love these blueberries on my oatmeal every single morning. So I'm not going to take that pleasure away from myself just because it's $2 more." So that's a really small, simple way to identify if a scarcity pattern is in your life or is running your life. But it is very common for the women that I work with to have it because, as mentioned earlier, they're first generation cycle breakers, many of them Latinas. So we come from a background where we're viewing our caregivers and the caregivers before then always rationing everything. Every paycheck that would come in, rationing it down to the T. When we go to the grocery store, rationing the things that we were able to put into the grocery cart. When we went out shopping, we would go straight for the sale rack instead of the new arrivals. So things like that is how scarcity shows up, and it is very prevalent. And I don't think anyone is immune to having some type of scarcity pattern. It's just how it's showing up and the nuance in which it shows up.
Yeah, exactly. It's, that example is a perfect example as you described. And, other examples for me, it's more of the guilt of spending, right? It's like, even if sometimes you do have, what it takes in the moment, it's like there's this guilt of like, well, I should save instead of spend, right? So it's like ultimately it can be about many different things. But the grocery store example is a really great way to just start and see if you can identify anything. But ultimately, do you feel like the scarcity mentality is really about money or is it about something deeper?
I think I say I think, but it really comes down to what I truly do see in the day to day. What is underneath is truly worthiness wounds, deservingness wounds, feeling like, are we enough to actually have the things that we actually want? So the women that I work with, when they amass a lot of success, even you, Summer, you just mentioned, a feeling sometimes potentially of guilt in spending on something. What could run underneath that scarcity pattern is, am I worthy enough of this? Am I deserving to have this? Because at some point when I was a kid, maybe I was presenting something in the classroom and the kids made fun of me, or I wanted a lollipop and my mom told me that was too expensive and she couldn't get it for me. So we internalized those small little experiences from when we were kids and we made it mean something about us rather than the situation was just the situation. It didn't mean anything about us, but because our minds in our very early years from 0 to 7 mainly we're in this theta brain state where we're just interpreting and absorbing things and making it mean things about us versus now as an adult we can be more discerning of that. But to answer your main question, what usually runs underneath scarcity is, am I worthy enough? Do I see myself as the type of person who actually gets to have this? And those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves and understand, where did they originate?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important to think about. And outside of scarcity and let's say worthiness, why do you think money tends to bring those types of deeper emotions to the surface for people?
Oh, because we use it every day. We need it. It is a resource that it is the main resource we use for exchange for the home we live in, for the things that we purchase on the day to day. So because it is such an integral part of our lives, it carries such weight and brings up so many emotions. I recently, which actually brings up a memory, just recently I saw this viral post about this man living in Paris who took up reading a book about salt. And it turns out that salt, way back in the day, was the main currency. So salt was just as prized as dollars now, the physical money that we use. But at one point, salt was the main thing. People were hoarding it, harboring it, and now we changed it to coins and dollar bills and a number on a screen on a web page. So we just directed the meaning that we have given one resource versus the other. So because this resource is the one that we use for our main day-to-day living, it carries a lot of emotion. Memories that we might carry of, quote, losing money when it was just invested in a different place that maybe we feel now wasn't a great choice in the moment, but we learned. And other things like when when we're wanting to purchase like a really big gift for someone and we're trying to budget that particular money, and then the things that we can or cannot experience in the moment because we do or don't have a certain amount of money in the bank account. So it carries a lot of weight because it is the main thing that we use on the day to day.
So I wonder too if why, money brings up some of these deeper emotions, if it's tied to kind of the external component of it, right? Because we use it every day, we are putting it on display or using it for some form of exchange. So there can be a bit of insecurity or fear of judgment placed on us on what if we don't have enough, or what if we want this thing and we can't get it, or what if our friends want to do this thing and we can't keep up with them, or what if I need to put this funding into my business and I can't do that quite yet. What does that say about me? There's a lot of superficiality in terms of our ego that is natural and organic that can come with it too, which I feel just tends to bring up some of those deeper things. Um, yeah. So, what's one misconception working with clients that you would love to not hear anymore when they first come in to work with you?
I would like to not hear that anything related to why they can anything related to the external reasons why they can't have what they want, what they want. So I tend to hear with the entrepreneurs that I work with, but no one's buying courses anymore, or no one wants X, or it's hard right now to do XYZ. That type of generalization is just something that I wish we could completely do without, because what that does is another fun one is, the economy, so therefore people don't have enough money to spend, so therefore my business is going to be affected. How did you deduce all of that from thinking externally? And that's one thing I wish we could completely do without, but that is part of the work, is bringing each and every client back to a remembering that we each have control over the outcome. We do have a lot more control than we think we do. It really just starts with our perceptions, our beliefs, our current mindset, what we believe is truly possible, regardless of the outside state. So that's one thing I wish we could completely do without immediately, of let's forget the outside, let's think the inside.
Yeah. So, in a way, money isn't really the problem. It's just simply where the problem shows up.
You're absolutely right. I recently worked with an incredible entrepreneur, and we did 2 breakthrough sessions, and at the end, she said, "You know, I just realized we didn't actually work on anything money related." And it was her eyes just opened up, and the light bulb went off, and then I said, "That's it. That's exactly it. The problem presents itself as if it's money, but it's really something else." We worked on releasing hurt. We released anger, sadness. We worked on internal family systems, because underneath all of that, the problem was presenting itself as money was scarce, but what was underneath all of it was just a a part of this person that felt that they always needed to hustle because that was the only way to feel loved, to feel seen, to feel valued. And it was just showing up as money, but it was something completely different.
Yeah, it's so interesting and it's just so valid. Every single person honestly can probably think of a moment where they've struggled or where they've had a hesitation around, kind of empowering themselves in this type of way. Um, so yeah, it's very relatable. And then before we get into some of the specific techniques that you utilize or we utilize to kind of help people break through those barriers for themselves, let's talk about some of the hot topics or the things that are super talked about online, very popular, and have been for years, quite frankly. But things like manifestation, again, as I mentioned before, most of these things, they take quite a bit of effort on the client's end as well. It's never a one and done type of scenario. So tell me a little bit about kind of your experience with manifestation, and the different types or anything that you want to share about that, really.
Yeah. So when I first understood or got into manifestation, I think you might have probably heard about it too, Summer, was when The Secret came out back in the early 2000s, right? You saw the documentary.
Yeah, I don't think I never read the book or watched the documentary or anything, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
That's where it started. So that's what piqued my interest around manifestation. But like most people, I also thought that it was, like you said earlier in the conversation, wishful thinking, that you just align your thoughts enough and the parking spot will appear and the check will appear and all of that. It wasn't until many years later that more of the puzzle pieces came into my awareness, because the idea, what manifestation is practically, is bringing something that you thought of into your physical experience. So, either a physical object that you wanted, an experience, a person, an opportunity, something that you're imagining, and then in some point, in some timeline, it happens. You actually experience it in your 3D. That's what manifestation is. What some people get wrong is that they think that it's just thinking, but like you said, there is a lot of effort. First things first, I want X. So then the next question is, what do I believe is possible for someone like me to have X? What do I believe about people who have that? Do I judge them in any way? Do I look down on them in any way? Looking at our past experiences with the thing that we want to call in, all of that. There's so many layers to it before it actually happens and we actually get to experience the thing that we set out to quote manifest. And yeah, on the online space, I always chuckle when I see the viral videos of like the 369 method. Just write it down, I guess like 3 times in the morning, 6 times later, and then 9 times, and just repetition. And then all of a sudden the thing will appear. That's nice. That can be a piece, but like you said, it's much deeper than that for sure.
Yeah. I feel like it's more so just keeping it in the forefront of your mind so that you don't forget to put effort towards it, essentially, in certain ways, right? And then manifestation also in my energy healing sessions, working with people around things that they want to manifest. First, it's not stuff that I'm telling them that they need to manifest, but the first step is usually they need to get clarity on what actually has meaning for them, you know? And then also identify the things that are holding them back. And then also the manifestation, again, it takes effort. And another thing that people frequently talk about are vision boards, which to me, they're kind of tied in together because people utilize vision boards for manifesting. But again, if you're just putting, visuals of specifically like, I want this car, I want this type of partner, I want this, whatever, I feel a lot of people set themselves up for certain types of disappointment, essentially. So instead, I've recommended people actually focus on the type of sentiment or feeling that they want to have present in their day to day, in their life, etc. So that's a different type of vision board. It's more of like a
Yeah.
feeling board, if you will.
Yes. Yes, that's so good.
but, it's a bit tricky. It's getting clarity around what you're actually working towards is a vital, important part of the step. And then again, putting in the effort and putting in the time and effort. It's not just sitting back and hoping for the best, you know?
Exactly. Gosh, you're so right. Yeah, it's and taking it a step further of, like, getting clear on what you want, but then understanding for what purpose you want it. Is the ultimate goal something that you're seeking from someone else? Meaning, like, are you seeking this thing because you want validation of some sort? You want to finally feel worthy? Or do you want this because it truly aligns with a deep core value that you have of experiencing peace, joy, connection with the people around you? So that is something that's really um it's really pivotal to discern once you're starting to get clear on what you want, is understanding for what higher purpose, for what higher intention, what about that do you value most? And then that starts to tell you what is truly driving it. And that will give you a really big preview into whether it's going to be an arduous process and long road or a road of fun, enjoyment, growth. You're going to meet parts of yourself that you're excited to meet. You're going to experience things that you never experienced before. So those are two very different ways of gaining clarity on what you want. But you're absolutely right. There it takes action. It takes movement. It takes forward momentum once you finally decide what you want. And the part that you said about feeling, that is such an important piece. We, I think what I see a lot is, and the misconception about like manifesting and bringing things into our reality is that you only have to feel high vibe all the time. But I think it's more so, can you shift into the feeling of having it frequently throughout your day? Because life is life, you know? You might have a stressful call in the morning with a client, or you might feel a little bit drained after working with a lot of people. And just because your frequency sort of dropped because you're a little tired, it doesn't mean that the thing that you want is going to now take longer. It's just, can you practice shifting into that feeling? And then also conversely, the idea of like lack of wanting something, but wanting something from the mindset of lacking it. Like you don't have it. And the pain that sometimes can come from that process of, well, I don't have it yet. So it really hurts. So how can I actually feel into the feelings if I don't have it? So it's like you said, it is very layered, but working with someone like yourself, like someone like me, the someone who can guide you through those levels to help you get clear, to walk that path with you is always so valuable.
Yeah, and ultimately a big part of why we both do this work is because it creates lasting change, right? And ultimately, when you get clarity and you manifest or make moves based on what's tied to your actual beliefs, like your internal beliefs, as we'll get into with the subconscious mind more, it holds way more weight, and the trickle down effect is way more powerful than if you were to be manifesting off of a fleeting trend or a fleeting interest, for example. So there's a lot of weight there. And for sure, the way that we think about attaining certain things on, is it a painful need, desire, etc., versus something that we're really striving, working towards in a positive manner, can make a difference too. Which leads me kind of into positive affirmations, because these are something that are used frequently with hypnotherapy or even sometimes mantras. I definitely utilize them in meditation as well. So tell us a little bit about the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and how often each operates, and the benefit of affirmations and whatnot.
Yeah, affirmations are wonderful. They are lovely for getting us to tap into something like a certain feeling. Maybe an affirmation that you like or have seen is money flows to me constantly, or I am an abundant person, or perhaps opportunities find me at every corner. Those are all wonderful to remind you of the things that are possible for you. Where some folks go wrong or they kinda get steered in the wrong direction is that if you're repeating affirmations and they feel like they're bouncing off of you, that's an indication that something needs to be reworked at the unconscious level. So, to break it down, if the unconscious mind runs 95% of our reality, our behaviors, our habits, how we show up in the world, our beliefs, because it has learned through a lot of repetition. Like when you're driving home from work or you're driving home from the grocery store, sometimes I bet most people have had an experience in which they arrive home and they think to themselves, how did I get here? I don't remember making the turn. I don't remember what happened. Has that
I not
happened to
only
you?
do that frequently, but I also think about the fact that I do that frequently and the fact that my subconscious mind is basically taking over, and I'm like, "That's a little scary, but glad I got here."
Exactly. So that is a prime example of your unconscious mind at work because you have repeated that route so often that it is now trying to be optimal with your energy. So it doesn't need you to be fully paying attention. It will just get you to the final destination in the most efficient and fast way while still keeping you safe. That's why, brushing your teeth feels so easy and you don't have to think twice about it.
Yeah. Well, and the part that you just said about it keeping you safe made me think that's actually talking about misconceptions with mindset work. That's a common misconception I feel with hypnosis is that people are going to experience what they've seen on TV. They're going to reveal something secret about themselves. They're going to embarrass themselves. They're going to do whatever. But our subconscious mind is really there to protect us and to keep us safe? So that is a perfect example of exactly that.
Exactly. It's good. You said it perfectly, Summer. It protects us. It's there to preserve our body. It's there to be efficient. It's there to be a faithful servant. And it protects us even from the things that we want that we know are good for us, but because it's unfamiliar and it doesn't know how to navigate it, it will protect us from that too. And there comes in the self sabotage patterns, the self doubt, the imposter syndrome, all of that. So, in the going back to affirmations and why they may not be working for you if you're saying them aloud all the live long day and you have them as a wallpaper and you look at them all day, but they're not sticking, it's because a part of you at the unconscious level doesn't truly fundamentally believe that. And that's why affirmations don't work sometimes for folks. For some folks, it does work because they have core beliefs that support those positive affirmations. So really thinking about when you're reading an affirmation and it's not feeling true, ask yourself, why don't I believe this to be true about me? Like when did I learn that this was not true about me? So when we're reading out these affirmations and we don't believe them to be true, that's where we can go to a technique like hypnosis. Hypnosis is it's just a deep state of meditation is all.
Yes.
It really is.
That is exactly how I describe it to people too. And even before sessions, I describe it's going to be quite similar to meditation for you.
Absolutely. You just go into a relaxed state and you calm down. Maybe it's the best part of your day because it's the one moment, 20-minute span that you get to truly relax and shut down all the racing thoughts. And then when you're truly deeply in that trance-like state, that's when your mind is more open and receptive to accept those affirmations that you actually want to program in. Because another wonderful way that our mind works is that when you are feeding yourself information, a new belief, affirmations, new ways of thinking, there's a part of your brain called the critical faculty. Think about it like the bouncer at the club. It's going to look up and size up every single thing that's coming through that door and say, do you fit the aesthetic? Do you fit the vibe? Do you fit the core beliefs of this establishment? If yes, you can proceed. If no, you're running out and make a U-turn, you're not coming in. So that's what happens in our brain. If you're feeding an affirmation that you fundamentally don't believe to be true, your critical faculty, the bouncer of your brain, will say, "You're not accepted in here. Sorry, go somewhere else." So that's why they don't stick. But when we go into a trance-like state within hypnosis, because you do have a core desire to want to believe those things to be true, your mind in that state is much more calm. The critical faculty lowers its barrier, and then we can bring in those positive affirmations, meaning they will actually stick. They will actually take root and plant their seeds the way you want them to. And why that's so valuable and when that becomes so valuable is that, think about it, if you're trying to call in a new level of success and you want to see yourself as a person who is confident speaking on stages, confident pitching my prices and my new services to a client without fidgeting, and I want to see myself as an authority in this space, we can take all of those affirmations, those positive affirmations, and put them into your mind in a hypnotic state so that you can actually truly not wake up after it. I'm misusing the word, but once you're out of the trance and out of hypnosis, you truly, truly feel like those things are true for you. And what happens when you actually believe those things are true for you? That it's easy for you to pitch, it's easy for you to show up on stage. You show up differently in the world. You show up with a very different attitude, and that's when things become much more easy. And I that's one thing I wish people would better understand about hypnosis, that it's not what you see in the Vegas shows. You're not gonna go and cluck like a chicken because your mind would never let you do that if it wasn't open and receptive to doing that.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's, the most important distinction to make. And also, all of these things, as we're talking, it's just nothing is truly generalizable to everybody, right? So these things, these methods, these etc., even though they sound and seem quite simple and organic, they really are quite prescriptive and they are tailored to the individual and to your goals. So even in a hypnosis session, you're speaking with your provider first about your goals and everything. It's not just a provider dumping what they think you should do onto you and then you're absorbing that into your brain and that's what you're now reprogrammed with. It's coming from you
Yes. Yes.
ultimately.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes, the proper process is you go in with your practitioner and your practitioner is going to ask you everything that you want to accomplish. How do you want to think? How do you want to believe? And they, just like you said, Summer, we use their exact words. I'm not making up an affirmation unless they said it. So if the client is telling me, I want to believe that my goals are possible, we're going to take that same thing and feed it. You believe your goals are possible. We're just flipping the script to say you, but you're absolutely right. So that's why it's so important for people to really think about what they actually want, not what they don't want. And that's where we come in, where we if you're saying things that maybe don't sound positive, then what would you want instead? And we help guide the affirmations that come in, but ultimately they're always decided by the client. That's such a great point to bring up, Summer.
Yeah. And okay, I have to go here because I just get constant questions about it. But it's something that I've brought up to you before. But with hypnosis, often can come NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And there can be a lot of skepticism out there with neuro linguistic programming or a lot of hesitation for sometimes some valid reasons because of certain situations that have happened in the past. But tell us a little bit about neurolinguistic programming and basically what people can look out for. That way they can potentially engage without being so fearful.
Yeah, so neurolinguistic programming in the simplest form is your mind's user's manual. So it's an understanding of how the mind works. And once you understand how the mind works and processes information, you can then use it to your benefit, to your advantage to make radical change in your life. So, one of the ways that NLP can be used is to change a belief system and how you see certain beliefs in your mind. So if right now, let's better explain it here, because I get so excited about talking about these things that I think, "Okay, what is the simplest way to explain it?" I'd love for you to think about right now the beliefs that you have in mind, like how much you love coffee right now. I'm sure you have a picture about how much you love coffee or how much you love tea, perhaps. Similarly, you might have a picture of something that you really don't like to eat. Maybe broccoli, maybe asparagus, maybe you really hate cabbage. Notice the difference in how your mind showed you those two different images. That is what NLP can help us understand for each and every individual. Everyone is different, much like the affirmations we talked about with hypnosis of what's going to stick. So, what we do in NLP is have an understanding of how you store all of the beliefs that you believe are not true and all of the beliefs that you believe that are true. And we make changes in those files dependent on your goals and your objective
With the person's input,
with the
usually.
person's input. Exactly.
Yes.
So usually a woman in session for me will say, a limiting belief is, "I'm really bad with money." That was a recent one. I said, "Really? You think you're bad with money?" She said, "Yes, I'm really bad with money." And I said, "When you think about that statement, do you have a picture in your mind?" And she said, "Actually, I do." And I said, "Okay, wonderful. Describe it to me. What's the picture that you see?" And she described this picture of what she saw. And I said, "All right, let's make some changes to that picture." And I said, "Okay, why don't you put a frame around the picture? Let's push it away. Can we make it black and white? Now make it look like it's watercolor and keep pushing it away. And now blow it away with your breath and see it just fall away like into a speck and then it disappears." And I asked her again, "Tell me about that old belief." She said, "I don't believe that anymore. No, it feels like something that used to be true." And all we did there, and that's what NLP does, is help us understand how someone is processing information so that we can make a favorable change. Now, to answer the other part of your question, when it's used unethically, it could also make changes in someone's life that are unfavorable, unfortunately. So it's really important for everyone to always carry discernment about their own goals and their own objectives and ultimately what they want out of life and how they want to feel in their body, and discern between the information that's coming in and filter that and ask themselves, does this truly feel true to me? Or am I just trying to submit to this information because maybe I'm seeking belonging, acceptance? I want to feel like I'm part of a community. So it's really important to ask yourself, if you are aware that NLP is happening, to understand your goals, because unfortunately, some people will unethically use NLP. We see it in media all of the time. The like generalization statements like, "They are the enemy, they are." So, if you hear something like that, like, "They are blank," in your mind, you're gonna interpret that however it appears to you, which might be different from the person next to you, because it's a very generalized use of language. So, in short and long, NLP can be very beneficial to make incredible positive change for someone who truly wants to seek out success and joy and happiness. But it could also have some adverse impacts if it's used unethically, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I hear the language too, even in the media, which is why I choose to read media more than I choose to listen, because I hear it and I just don't enjoy it and I recognize it immediately. Um, but yeah, otherwise, ways to protect yourself too is just having diversity of providers in a way, right? So it's even if you are going to somebody for NLP, make sure you're keeping in contact with your other providers to check in and see how you're doing. Just, have different eyes on you, people that maybe aren't under the same umbrella entirely sometimes. That can help as well
Exactly.
if
Yeah,
you don't feel so secure trusting just yourself, essentially.
exactly.
Yeah. And then, so tell me now a little bit about EFT. EFT is, I feel like, everywhere these days, or at least in recent years, at least. And it's something that I have dabbled in as well. And I have found it very helpful. Um, I've mentioned to you somebody that I know that is very close to me went through a situation themselves, which actually created a lot of fear for me. So then for a period of time, anytime I would have to, make a certain plan or do a certain type of thing, I would feel the physical sensations of that anxiety. And that's kind of my intro to EFT. And I started delving into that a little bit, and it helped immensely, I have to say. And I feel like I was able to kind of put a stall to that pattern. I'm big on looking at patterns, and I recognized it was a new pattern for me and it was unlike me. So it was something that I wanted to take care of and manage as quickly as possible, but as efficiently as possible. So tell me a little bit about EFT, the benefits, some of the applications, anything you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Well, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's based on traditional Chinese medicine acupressure points. So if anyone listening is familiar with like the little needles that get placed on your body, for acupressure points, it's similar, but with EFT, there's no needles. It's just two fingers or one finger on your hand, and you're tapping on different meridian points on your body to activate sensation around your body and move stagnant energy. And I love to hear that I know the story that you've used EFT. So when someone shares their story and shares how positive it was for them, it's always such a, oh, that's incredible, because for me, it just shows that there is always more than one way to be able to overcome high stress or a block or anything that we have choice, and we don't have to sit with all of the uncomfortable emotions all the time. There are tools and resources that will meet someone where they are, because not every tool will be for everyone at that point in time, but maybe at another point.
And we don't have to accept it as our new normal.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'd love to hear that you're using EFT. So with emotional freedom techniques, as I was saying, you tap on a variety of points on your body. There's about 9 points across the body: top of the head, the inner brow, side of the eye, under your nose, on your chin, your collarbone, on the side of your arm, and even on the wrist. So, what we do is we tap on all of these points in sequence while saying certain statements aloud. Like in your case, you might have been feeling stressed in that moment. So, we would tap on those points and say something like, even though I'm feeling this immense amount of stress, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I don't know how to handle the situation right now, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And what we do in that process by tapping through all of that is that we loosen any stuck energy, because our bodies are energy. We are like walking magnets, walking circuitry. We have energy in us. And when it's all pent up and stagnant, it creates a lot of adverse impacts in our life. We feel really stressed. We might start to see physical symptoms appear in our body because of it. So, by engaging in EFT, we can release stress, we can rewire limiting beliefs, we can release stuck emotions like stress and worry. And it's been studied. Over 100 peer-reviewed studies are out there that you can look at that show how effective EFT is at lowering cortisol, and oftentimes even more impactful than just a single therapy session. And when combined, it has even more results. It's even more impactful. Most recently, I led a workshop for a group of women called Raise Your Capacity to Receive More Money. And we ended with a tapping round where we tapped on all of the meridian points through affirmations that surrounded thoughts like, even though I'm the first in my family and I don't know exactly what I'm doing, I'm willing to allow myself to experience massive success. Even though I've never seen someone like me achieve what I want, I'm willing to believe that I can have it. So we can use it for reducing stress, we can use it for stepping into a new identity, and overall gaining us an overall sense of well-being. And it's a free tool. You could do it while you're driving, you can do it in the morning, you can do it at night. It's free and available to us everywhere.
Yeah, I really appreciated the tangibility of it too. Obviously, I do lots of tangible practices, let's say, to affect stress in our nervous system and whatnot. But this was a simple one that I could do while I was driving or if I was more on the go. Um, So yeah, it's just very important to, I think, bridge sometimes the mental with the physical and bringing it into your daily life, and giving you something tangible to work with in the sense that oftentimes people, I'm sure you hear this all the time, people say, I can't quiet my mind or I have too many things on it right now. So, but this is something you can literally do at any given point, right? So it's nice to have different levels of tools available at your disposal.
Absolutely. And usually EFT, if someone has like any skepticism towards it, because it doesn't require you to go into meditation, it doesn't require you to be still. You're engaging in it. You are being an active participant by tapping on the meridian points. You feed your evidence bucket in your mind, and that sense of control in a way, that sense of I'm doing something about it, that heightens the effect because you see that you are being an active participant in moving through whatever uncomfortable emotions.
Yeah.
Therefore, you are choosing to want to feel different. And that's a really big piece of it. The fact that when you engage in it, Summer, it takes a decision. You're feeling something, and then you say, wait a minute, I don't want to feel this anymore. I want to move through this. I want to process it. I'm going to tap. So that is big too. The choice to want to feel differently is also very important.
Well, and I feel like that stems a lot of the times from our beliefs, right? Which is where we go back to the hypnosis and where the mindset work is really helpful. So it's all a first full circle thing for me. And as you very well know, that's why I also tie in environment to body and mind, because we can set ourselves up visually to promote certain habits, promote certain changes, make things more exciting and more intriguing, more engaging for us along the way, which also helps kind of unbias the bias in our subconscious and conscious mind.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really big. Yeah, and the fact that you said that it goes back to the beliefs, that was so beautifully connected, Summer, because there has to also be a fundamental belief in there that you can change something about your reality.
Well, and we've all been in a situation at some point in our lives where, we go through a phase where we think, oh, I should eat a bit healthier, because of whatever. But it's like, and then you get a healthier diet, but then that healthy diet is not very exciting or intriguing, and it's not something you actually want to eat. So therefore, you don't stick to it. You can only bring a horse to water. So ultimately, if you don't actually truly want it for yourself or truly believe it for yourself, it's that much less likely to happen.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's the clip right there. That's the clip right
Yeah.
there. You have to
Okay, well,
want it
let's
for
switch.
yourself.
Let Yeah, let's switch to talking about nervous system regulation, because nervous system regulation is also everywhere right now, and shockingly, I mean, for me as a physical therapist, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about nervous system that I'm a little concerned are talking about nervous system. Say people that clinically maybe should not quite yet. Which so ultimately though, is everyone really dysregulated or is everyone more dysregulated, or what do you think this trend is?
I think so there's love and not exactly hate, but love and maybe my eye twitches from time to time because we tend to
There's just a little
oversimplify.
concern.
Yes, just slight
A
concern.
little concern.
That's why I twitch because we love to oversimplify. We love to oversimplify, but I have to also see the good side of it that people are getting educated and informed, and I can only hope that everyone will then again practice discernment and do their own research. And to your question, do I believe everyone is dysregulated? I think we all have some level of dysregulation. We are human. We are not supposed to be zen and calm all day because life is life. And that's the beauty of our nervous system. Just like our unconscious mind, it works to protect us, get us into motion, get us moving, preserve us. It has fundamental vital functions that are good for us. But like with anything, if we take it way to one side, then we're off balance. And nervous system regulation isn't about being fully calm 100% of the time. It's more so teaching your nervous system to be flexible so that in a moment of stress, it doesn't overtake you completely, it doesn't consume you. You have the ability to toggle between, I'm stressed, and, oh, I can handle this. Let me do some EFT. Let me do this, because what you need in a moment of stress is not to be fully calm. It's to access your critical thinking, because perhaps you need to solve something. Perhaps you need to assess a situation and make a decision of some sort, a rational decision. So being calm all the time is not truly the goal. It's more so, can you have more flexibility within you to realize that maybe not all situations require you to be stressed out or calm. Maybe some situations do require you to feel a little amped up, because it's good. It's good to sometimes feel a little bit amped up. Like before our call, we were feeling excited. Maybe our hearts were racing a little bit. In a moment like that, it's not about just fully being calm, because we do need some of that excitement to help us have a dynamic
Yes.
conversation. So
Keep our
it's
brains alert.
exactly. So it's not all completely keep your system regulated. So that's something I
Yeah.
wish everyone would understand a little more. It's more, use it as a tool to empower you to understand what it is, but don't go too far one way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like I hear so many things and I meet so many people who it seems people think they need to be always on or in this restful state, and there's no happy medium. And that is where your nervous system, your body, your posture, your energy, all of it really struggles, even your mind, because it's very difficult to go from super engaged, elevated, active to all of a sudden in a restful mode. Your body's usually not quite ready for that. And your mind is definitely not quite ready for that. So even if your body crashes immediately and you fall asleep, your mind is probably still going a bit, right? So it's just, I don't know. There's no happy medium, it seems, in between. And that's where I see like the stress come into people's lives in terms of their nervous system regulation and where they get caught. They're great at being on at work and they're great at, you know, the self-care stuff at home when they can fully shut off, but it's the in between that's really the disconnect.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where having practices to default to are really wonderful. Like a Reiki session with you is always phenomenal to be able to, like, if you're coming from a season of being on all the time, being able to balance yourself out and get back to calibrate. It's more so like a calibration of bringing ourselves down slowly, not too fast, and then also allowing ourselves to ramp up in a way that feels sustainable. Because if we're going from 0 to 60 out of nowhere, then that's also not very, very helpful or sustainable. But point being that this is where I say have a toolbox of things. Have someone like Summer on your side to do a Reiki session or a physical therapy session so that you're
Or
taking care
feng
of
shui, yeah.
or feng shui, absolutely.
Something. Set up yourself for success.
Exactly, exactly. Have the EFT, have your preferred EFT recording ready to go, have a great hypnosis or subliminals or meditation that can get you back into a calibrated state, into a state of flow, but not too
Yeah.
far this way or too far that way for sure.
Yes, I love that, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's we don't have to struggle on either end of the spectrum, and we don't have to struggle with any of it realistically, and I feel like that's also probably why a lot of these things have picked up in popularity lately because people are realizing there are a lot of organic methods out there that they can implement themselves. They don't have to outsource every single thing,
Yeah.
which saves them time, money, and just gives back a little bit more freedom to live their lives, which is all what we want to do, anyways, right?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much for talking with me today. Tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you, please.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Caminero. I'm also the host of the Confident, Magnetic, and Wealthy podcast. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to expand your mind around wealth embodiment, success, money, and all it takes to make it happen from the subconscious point of view, I'd love to have you as a listener. And you can send me a DM. I'd love to hear what resonated from today's conversation. I love voice notes. I do engage in the DM. So please do send me a voice note and then we can chat.
Yes, lovely. Thank you so much. And I'm sure I'll be sending you a voice note later too. Thank you so much for listening to another episode with me. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow the show, leave a rating and review, or share this episode with someone who could probably use it. Keep chasing patterns, not perfection, and maybe think twice before believing everything Instagram tells you. Until next time.